Geronimo Stilton, Red Pizzas for Blue Count. Read by Jose Tongho. Oh, what a hairy, scary night. Oh, what a hairy, scary night. It was the month of November, and it was so cold. I had mouse bumps and the sides of marbles. I buried myself under my great aunt's Ratsy's comforter and opened my book. It was a collection of ghost stories, the haunted cheese shop, and other tales to make you squeak. An icy rain pattered against my window as I turned to the pages. The wind blew open my window. My curtains danced about wildly like a ghost in an aerobatics class. I jumped out of my bed to shut the window. Rats! I was still shivering, and it wasn't just from the cold. Those ghost curtains looked pretty scary. As I climbed back into bed, the phone rang. I bounced so high my bed did double duty as a trampoline. Ring, ring, ring! Who could be calling so late? It was almost midnight. I picked up the receiver. Hello, hello, who is it? I demanded. Hello, Geronimo, my voice answered. It sounded very far away. Yes, I am Geronimo Stilton, I shouted. It's me, Jerry Tails, the voice continued. I groaned. The me was annoying cousin, Trap. I should have known. Only Trap would bother a mouse in the middle of the night. Still, he sounded sort of strange. Trap, where are you? I asked. The line cracked loudly. I could only make out some of my cousin's words. What I heard was, I'm in Transtania, he squeaked. I'm at Castle Count von Ratov. Get out! Before I could reply, the line went dead. Yes, it was certainly one hairy, scary night. Within paw's reach. Seconds later, I had my sister Thea on the line. I just had a call from Trap. He may be in trouble, I told her. And you woke me up just to tell me that, my sister squeaked. I was in the middle of the most fabulous dream. I was getting married on an enormous yacht, only I couldn't make out who I was marrying. I was surprised by my last part, but my sister had been more sweethearts than I have ever kind of cheeses in my oversized fridge. Listen, Thea, I continued. Trap said he was calling from Transantania. Did Trap say he was calling from Transantania? She cried. We have to get him right out of there right away. Let me check out the schedule. We'd better get going. Wait a minute, I protested. We can't just go scampering off. What about my job? My sister snorted. Your cousin's in trouble and you're worried about silly newspapers? Oh yes, I forgot to mention. I run a newspaper called the Rodents Gazette. Really, Jerry, your heart must be frozen solid, Thea shrieked. You should be ashamed of yourself. I chewed my whiskers. Well, maybe we could go, I said. We will leave the first thing tomorrow morning, Thea declared. The train leaves at 6:30. See you at the station. When the cat is away. At 6 o'clock, I was at the station. I had been listening to the weather report. There would be clear skies all over Mouse Island, but fog as always in Transantania. Why oh why did my cousin have to get lost in the coldest part of the island? The coldest and most mysterious too. There were lots of stories about the castles of Transantania. Some believed they were stirring of ghosts. At least, Thea showed up. She was dressed up in a small woolly coat with a fake cat fur scarf and matching that. Hey, big brother, how are you going? She greeted me. She was grinning. Awful, thank you, I grumbled. How would the paper manage without me? I worried out loud. You know what you say? When the cat is always, the mice will play. My sister laughed. Oh, please, Shuriken, she scoffed. You're not all that important, really. In case you have forgotten, I run a newspaper, I said in my most serious tone. If I'm not at my desk, who will publish the Rodents Gazette? Oh, give me a break there, Snicket. The office can run fine without you. In fact, they'll probably be better off. No nervous old cheddar-face breathing down their fur. I'm not a cheddar-face, but I have to admit, I did worry about the paper. After all, mice everywhere were reading it. By the way, Jerry Tails, dear, interrupted my thoughts. Do you ever read the Rodent Daily Rap? I was reading it the other day, and before my sister could continue, I jumped to my paws. A daily rat? I squeaked. How could you read such garbage? You know that paper's written by the slimiest sewer rats in the city? They will rob their own mothers for a good story. They would feed a cat to the entire graduating class of Mouseville Elementary if it sold papers. The junk is only good for wrapping up rotten herrings. Yes, well, that's all very interesting, Thea said. But last night I had a great idea for an article. I write a story on the castles in Transantania. Horror and very in these days, you know, she explained. Anyways, I've already sold the article and they paid me a bundle. What did you say? Why was I so upset? Well, you see, there is a special correspondent for my paper, the Rodents Gazette. Could she really be working for our rivals over the Daily Rat? What? Are you telling me you want to quit the Gazette? I squeaked. I felt faint. Oh, my rodent's honor. Just then I heard a creaking sound. My sister leaped in front of me. What's that? I said. What are you hiding? Nothing at all, Thea answered, waving her paw at me. What would I have to hide, boy? Boy, are you jumping today? I jumped to the left, but Thea was quicker than me. Next, I jumped to the right. Again, my sister beat me to the spot. A few more jumps, I gave up. Enough with the dance, I shrieked. At last, what are you hiding? Don't get your tails in knots. Jerry Berry, Thea smirked. It's just a little old trunk. At that moment, the lid of the trunk opened. A pair of tiny ears popped out. It was Benjamin, my young nephew. Hello, Uncle Jerry, he squeaked. Benjamin, what are you doing here? I cried. I turned to Thea. We can't take such a young mouse to Transylvania. My nephew flicked up his tail in the air. I'm not young. I'm 9 years old, he insisted. Besides, Aunt Thea said I could help you. That's it, I thought, for once, and I have to show them I'm in charge. We'll get it. I announced I'm taking charge. Oh, my runs honor, this time we do it my way, or my name is not Geronimo Stilton. Next stop, Radoff. 10 minutes later, 3 of us were comfortably sitting in the train. So much for taking charge. I grumbled to myself. Maybe I should have dropped out of tough-talking mouse class I had signed up for last summer. The teacher was this old grey rodent with one eye. He had picked on me so much the first day of class. I was afraid to go back. I sighed and settled back in my seat. My sister was happily reading aloud with a tourist guide to Transylvania. Hidden in the foggy hills of Transylvania sits the mysterious Radoff Castle. Meanwhile, Benjamin had snuggled under my coat. Brr, it's cold, but I don't mind. I'm happy I'm able to travel with you, Uncle Geronimo, he said cheerfully. Benjamin is my favorite nephew. I stroked his ears and smiled. An hour later, I pressed my snout against the window. The landscape was getting gloomier and gloomier. At every stop, mice seemed to pour out of the train, but there was no pushing and shoving at our stop. That's because the time we reached off at Radoff, we were the only passengers left. Radoff, next Radoff, echoed a lonely voice in the fog. Garlic, garlic, and more garlic. We climbed off the train and looked around. Now we just had to figure out how to get off Radoff Castle. Excuse me, sir, which way to Radoff Castle? Asked a tall, lean rat wearing a ragged coat. His eyes opened to me. He clutched at his garlic necklace. Then he disappeared into the fog without a word. My sister rolled her eyes. Let me try, she grumbled. You are absolutely useless, Meister. She tapped the arm of a passing female mouse. Excuse me, could you direct me to Count Van Radoff's castle? She said. Aye! Shrieked the mouse. She scampered off, shaking her bracelet of garlic gloves in the air. We decided to check out the souvenir shops around the station. A mouse with a crooked tail stood behind the counter. He looked at us with curiosity. Pardon me, I began. Yes, the mouse. Could you direct us to the castle? I continued. Yes, said the mouse. We're looking for the castle of Count Van Radoff. At the name Radoff, the mouse's eyes nearly popped out of his face. He flung a handful of souvenir garlics around his neck. A tag hanging from the necklace read, Greetings from Transylvania. Then small letters, it read garlic and me, perfect together. How strange. I wondered what it all meant, but I didn't get the chance to ask it. Before I knew it, the mouse was shoving out the door. He clicked the lock behind us and turned out the lights. How rude, squeaked Thea. What a weird way to treat the tourists. I wouldn't buy silly souvenirs if they were the last ones in town, she ranted. Did you see those ridiculous garlic keychains? And who would want to send a garlic postcard? A few minutes later, we passed a fancy restaurant, and I read the menu out loud. Hearty garlic pot pie, jumbo garlic burgers, pasta with extra garlic. What a strange menu. A large mouse came to the door. Would you like to have dinner, sir? He asked. His breath smelled like he had just sampled over every dish on the menu. No, thank you, I gasped. But could you tell us how to get to Castle Count Van Radoff? In a flash, the mouse pulled out a big bottle and gulped down the liquid inside. Judging by the stench, it must have been garlic juice. Get out, he shrieked, slamming the door in our snout. What was it with mice or Radoff and their garlic? I thought about all the mice we had passed wearing garlic necklaces. I thought about the garlic bracelets and garlic wreaths and the front doors. No, this thing wasn't just a passing trend, I decided. In fact, there's only one reason why rodents should have so much garlic. A shiver ran down my fur. Some say garlic is what you need to keep vampires away. We flew in the dark of night. It was a pitch-black night. You couldn't see your nose in front of my snout. We were like the 3 blind mice trying to figure out what way to go. A sudden flash of lightning filled the bright sky. That's it, shouted Benjamin. That's the castle over there. I caught a glimpse of the castle's pointed tower. What a perfect picture, cried Thea, pulling out her camera. Just then we heard a noise. A very odd-looking steam poured. The car rattled towards us. The mouse at the wheel appeared to have a hunchback. He was dressed all black with a dark hood over his head. The strange rodent was humming an even stranger song. Who crossed the sky in the dark-eyed night? Oh, what terror, oh, what fright! Who crossed the sky of the wings so bat? Discover the secret as a wise rat. Who crossed the sky in the dark of night? Oh, who shared terror, oh, what a sheer fright! A large copper boiler was attached to the front of the flimsy-looking case. Pipes of all shapes and sizes stuck out of it every now and then. The driver would pull out a chain and a smoke and would shoot out the largest pipe. The driver would cough and choke. Afraid of being seen or squished, we drove into the bushes along the side of the road. The mouse drove by, coughing and hacking away. He reminded me of my great uncle Scratchy. He gave up smoking. We continued on to the castle, but still in a half-hour later, we spotted another strange creature. This one wasn't driving a car, though. In fact, it wasn't even on the ground. It was flying through the air. It was black, and looked sort of like a gigantic bat. No, not that kind of bat you'd hit a home run with in a rat-filled ball. I'm talking about the furry bat, the squeaky sort of bat, the one that comes out at night and sleeps hanging upside down. The strange creature seemed to have come from the castle. It flew over our heads and headed off towards the village. What was that? Started Benjamin, as the creature disappeared into the clouds. Beats me, said my sister. But whatever it was, I hope it smiled. She patted her camera. I just took its picture. Icicles on my whiskers. It took 3 hours to reach the castle. There are icicles on your whiskers, my sister told me. It didn't surprise me. I was so cold. I felt like a mouse popsicle. Benjamin had slipped under my coat to stay. I could hear her tiny teeth chattering. We had to find a way into the castle, or we were gonna end up in the frozen food aisle in the King Cat supermarket. They checked out the walls on the side of the castle. I stayed in front. At last, I spotted a big pipe that opened in the castle's moat. Over here, I called, calling into the pipe. Quiet as mice, we scurried inside. I sniffed air. This must be the castle sewers, I talked, but there was no time to worry about the stinky smell. Revolting, that's what she is. We dropped into the castle courtyard. All of a sudden, we heard a doorbell ring. I am on my way, master, shouted a voice with a funny accent. It was a rodent we had seen driving the strange car. Phew, I am coming. What's the hurry? He whined. He hopped down the stairs, 4 steps at a time. He sounded round and stocky. His head was sunk between his shoulders, as if he had no neck. His eyes bulged out of his face. One of his eyes was torn out, and looked as if a cat had left teeth marks in it. With one single leap, the hunchback grabbed the key to the front door and turned it in the lock. Welcome back to the castle, master, he mumbled, bowing low. The front door opened wide, and in came an even weirder rodent. It must have been Count von Radoff. He was tall and lean, with a pointy snout, and he was wearing a floor-length red silk cape. His eyes had a sad look, and his whiskers dropped, as if he hadn't laughed in centuries. The mouse needs a night out. A good comedy club, I said to myself. Stand up and squeak always cheered me up. Behind him came a little blonde mouse, who was wearing a red silk cape. I hope you remember to run my hot bath, she squeaked, staring down a stout hunchback. Hot bath? What hot bath? He answered. He seemed to try not to giggle. It figures. No one ever listens to a word I say around here. It's revolting. I don't even have a personal maid. Ever heard of a countess without a personal maid? She swept up the main staircase in a huff. Her silk cape fluttered in behind her. Thea stuck her snout in the air, just like the little blonde mouse. Revolting, she whispered. That's what she is. Gong gong! We followed the strange mice back into the castle. Everyone kept their tails low. And don't make us squeak, whispered Thea, winking at me. Why, oh why will you never listen? Hiding in the shadows, we crept quietly around the hunchback. A huge soup pot ran on the stove. He stuck a wooden spoon onto the pot. The stuff looked at my thick as Grouchy's grandma one whisker. You could use a soup to glue down wallpaper. Eventually, the hunchback's spoon got stuck. Creepy crawly crabble, shrieked the rodent. He began to pull on the spoon with all his might. There was a sucking sound, and out flew the blue spoon. It hit the wall and stuck there. The hunchback stared at the spoon, then snickered. He bounced over to a huge gong and hit it with a big hammer. He peeked in the dining room. The Count and the young Countess were sitting at the opposite ends of a very long table. The hunchback carried 2 crystal goblets over to the table. Then he poured a thick red liquid into each one. I gulped. I had a feeling this was no cherry berry punch. It just looked like our blood. How yummy, said the young Countess. She wiped her snout with a napkin, leaving deep red smudges. I shivered. The sight of blood makes me faint. Poor Trap. Let's explore the castle while they are having the meal, I whispered. The long hallways were dark and spooky. Flickering candles cast eerie shadows of walls. A thick layer of dust and cobwebs covered the furniture and many paintings. Poor Uncle Trap, I sobbed. What's happening to him? Sobbed Benjamin, blowing his nose. He really is such a sweet, sensitive mouse. Meanwhile, Thea was busy snapping pictures left and right. These cobwebs are perfect, just perfect, she squeaked. I couldn't have asked for a better shot. This is going to be the craziest article ever. I wonder what I should call it. Maybe Blood in Transylvania, she said thoughtfully. Or how about the castle of Bad Blood? I clutched my stomach. Please do not mention the word, I whispered. Thea smirked. What word, big brother? You mean blood? As in blood dry, blood sausages? And let's not forget bloodhound. I forgot and turned pale. All of a sudden, a dark shadow loomed in front of us. Trip Von Trappen, the ghost of a mouse, white to the tip of his whiskers, appeared before our very eyes. The ghost winked at us. Hi there, cousins. Long time no see, he said. I could hardly believe my eyes. It was Trap. Benjamin threw his arms and paws around his uncle. Even Thea wiped his way a tear. You're here, I gasped. You're still alive? Alive and kicking, Jerry-doo. Why else would I be? Gone to mouse heaven to do a little cloud racing? My cousin teased. Then he snorted, sending a cloud of white dust into the air. I was just trying to get a bag of flour down from the shelf, and it spilled all over me. I look like a real bakery mouse, don't I? I stared at my cousin. But Trap, I said, what about your phone call? We thought you were in trouble. What phone call? Trap said. Oh yeah, I forgot I called you. You see, I was in the middle of frying up some grasshoppers when I thought I'd give you a call. But then the grasshoppers started hopping all over the kitchen. So I decided to chop up some hairy caterpillars instead. But they got inching away. So then I found a huge fuzzy spider, and Thea flicked her tail at Trap. Enough, she squeaked. Why did you call Trap? Do you need our help? If not, then I need to concentrate on the article I'm writing. My cousin didn't seem to be listening. He had a dreamy expression on his face. Wow, demanded Thea. Trap snapped his attention. Yes, well, I just called because I was bored. I didn't mean to get your whiskers to a knot. I thought you might like to get out of the city, you know? Take a little vacation. You know, I met those beautiful mouse. But I closed my eyes and counted to 10. I was trying not to strangle my cousin. Did I really just leave my job for a little vacation with Trap in Transylvania? Why are you doing here? But what are you doing here in the first place? My cousin cleared his throat. Are you ready for some shocking news? He asked. Did you ever see the commercial on TV for Find Your Tail? You know that agency that can research your fairy tree? He asked. It's actually a family tree, I corrected. Trap waved his paw in the air. Whatever, he muttered. Well, 10 days ago, I called the place, and it turns out that I may be a descendant of the distinguished Von Trappen family on Transylvania. Yes, I may have royal blood, he squeaked. I groaned. Don't mention that word, please. I mumbled. My knees felt weak. Trap gave me a disgusted look. Well, it's obviously that you and I are very different, he declared. I am strong, and you are weak. I am carefree, and you are worrywart. I am an accomplished chef, and you have trouble balancing your cheese on a cracker. Of course, it's not your fault you're not a royal blood, and that it doesn't run through your veins, he added. I practice my deep breathing exercises. Why did my cousin insist on using that word? Anyways, I came to Transylvania to find some proof of my royal beginnings, Trap explained. They said the founder of the family lived right here in the castle centuries ago. His name was Trip Von Trappen. Please let me faint in peace. I still don't understand how you convinced Count Von Radoff to let you stay, they remarked. I mean, doesn't exactly seem like Mr. Friendly Rat. More like Mr. Frightening Rat, I thought. But I didn't say a word. They would just call me a scaredy mouse. Old Radoff didn't know about my research, my cousin chuckled. I just got myself as a hired cook. Which reminds me, tomorrow they'll be having a great ball at the castle. I have to figure out the menu. The Count and his niece are having unusual tastes. They cannot stand garlic, but they love all kind of insects. Strange, huh? I don't ask. I just cook. Maybe I should make a nice bloodsucker's pie with my hearty blood sausage. Trap said thoughtfully, a creepy blood pudding will make a tasty dessert. What do you think, cousin? My head was beginning to spin. Just, you're looking paler than a minute, Trap said. You look like you just gave 10 points of blood down at the stick. I closed my eyes. Maybe if I wished really hard, my cousin would disappear into thin air. I opened my eyes. No luck. He was still staring at me if I was some silly science experiment. Oh, stop talking about blood. Can't you see I'm upset? I whispered. Trap snorted. Hey, don't blame me if you got some high blood pressure. I'm not trying to burst your blood vessel. I was just trying to talk about my menu. After all, I'm a blue-blooded mouse, you know. I don't have time for silly games. I began to see stars. No, I'm not talking about movie stars. Then I blacked out. Suddenly, my sister was squeaking in my ear. Geronimo, take a deep breath, she screeched, gently slapping my snout. My cousin leaped to my side and began smacking me hard on the other cheek. My eyes popped open. I glared at Trap. Please, 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 just let me faint in peace, I begged. Ah, Snowballer. Just then, Trap looked at his watch. Oh, rat, it's late. I need to get cooking, he cried. Come on, Count Van Radoff keeps a strict schedule. He's got a timetable for everything. Eating, drinking, sleeping, flitting in the creepy cape, they added, taking a close-up on the cobwebs. My cousin smirked. Maybe you just don't understand us, royal mice, he cropped. Clearly, the Count is a noble rodent, and his niece, Count Snowballer, isn't she the most gorgeous mouse you've ever seen? My cousin sighed dreamily. Too bad about the fool she's engaged to. Scon von Denode, he went on. He's so ugly he probably cracks every mirror he passes. He's so slow, he probably needs his mommy to help him get dressed in the morning. He's so dumb, before Trap could continue. The bookcase he had been leaning against swiveled around and disappeared. Trap, we all shouted, but there was no answer. Seconds later, we heard Paul's steps approaching. We hid behind a large sofa with a crazy zigzag pattern. I peeked outside just in time to see 3 mice approaching. It was the Count and the Countess and the Hunchback. I could hear the Countess chatting away. For tomorrow's night ball, we need a butler and a footman, and of course, I must have a personal maid, he squeaked. Count von Radoff did not say one word. His eyes stared blankly ahead. This one was a depressed mouse. It's Uncle. It's almost dawn, Uncle. I'd better go. Good night, called Countess Snowballer as she speeded up towards the stairs. I watched her glide up the stairs, very odd. Her paws barely touched the ground, but there was no time to think about the Countess. We need to think about what Trap said. I said, but how can we explore the castle without attracting attention? My nephew tugged at my sleeve. I know, Uncle, he squeaked. We'll pretend we are looking for jobs. They're all looking for jobs like a butler, a footman, and a maid. Great idea, little mouse, I cried. I'll be the butler, you'll be the footman, and there will be the maid. What, my sister shrieked. I came here to get a scoop, not to play maid to the snobby rat. A scarlet silk cape. We left the castle through the sewers. Then we crept to the front. It was night, and the castle looked dark and spooky. We knocked at the door. The Hunchback greeted us. What do you want? He grumbled. I tried to look very professional. And are you looking for help by any chance? I said. We're looking for work. The shrimpy mouse smirked and let us in. I'm going to call the young Countess. Wait here in the hall, he instructed. A few seconds later, I heard a rustling sound. I turned around, and the young Countess was behind me. How could she get there so fast? I wondered. I could tell Thea she was puzzled as I was. Meanwhile, Snowbella was looking over us carefully. She patted our fur. She checked our teeth. She looked in our ears and waved a paw in front of our eyes. I'm surprised she didn't ask us to walk in a straight line or sing a song. Eventually, she seemed satisfied, though, because she waved us on. You two can go put on your uniform, she said to Benjamin and me. Thea. Then she pointed at Thea. You can follow me, she told my sister. You will iron my wrap, sew my hem of my scarlet cape, and kill the powder on my wing. Then you will polish my shoes. 12 strokes. The Hunchback led us to a huge walk in the closet. You will find your uniforms in here, he said. If you need anything, just ask. The Hunchback turned to leave. Thank you, I said, pulling out 2 matching coats from the closet. By the way, what is your name? I called after him. The Hunchback whirled around and squeaked. Don't bother me. Well, I didn't mean to pry, I mumbled. I just want to know what we should call you. Don't bother me, the Hunchback cried again. I gulped. The Hunchback seemed to be getting upset. Maybe he had one of those really embarrassing names. I cleared my throat and tried again. Lots of mice have their names they don't like, I told the Hunchback. Yours can't be that bad. Don't bother me. My name is not Bother Me, he repeated. Benjamin was supposed to catch on. Oh, of course, Mr. Don't Bother Me. What a great name. The Hunchback hobbled towards the door in a huff. Do you want us to brush off the cobwebs? I called after him. Once again, the hunchback whirled on me. "Don't you dare touch the cobwebs," he shrieked, going into a tailspin. "They are 16th century." I looked around the room. "Oh, what are some dusting?" I offered. Again, the hunchback threw a fit. As he smacked the floor, he bared his teeth. "No, that's collector's dust," he screamed in rage. "I'll chop off your paws if you go anywhere near it." Well, what do you want us to do then?" "Go down to the kitchen and give the new cook a paw," the hunchback instructed. He shot a loving glance to many cobwebs hanging over their head, then he stormed off. Just then I heard a clock strike. Ding dong! I counted 12 clocks. 12 strokes, midnight, whispered Benjamin. "Is that when the ghosts and vampires come out?" Cherry red and strawberry red. Suddenly, we heard a buzzing noise coming from the highest tower in the castle. It sounded just like an airplane before it takes off. I pressed my ear to the door leading to the tower. The noise got louder and louder, then slowly faded away as we made our way to the kitchen. We passed a huge picture window. I glanced outside. Then I blinked. For a minute, I thought I spotted the strange black flying creature we had seen on our way to the castle. I shook my head and peered out the window again. No, nothing now. Maybe I needed to make an appointment with Mr. Bifocals, my eye doctor, and get my eyes checked. My glasses were sort of old. At that moment, my head heard voices coming from out of the room. I recognized the voice of the young Countess Nobella. "Did you iron my dress?" "Not yet." "Be careful, you'll burn it," she commanded. I heard Thea grumbles. Nobella didn't seem to notice this. She kept ordering my sister about. "Brush my fur, easy, you are tugging at my curls," she squeaked. "Now I must have some red polish for nails, and my whiskers need to be curled." I heard her sigh. Next I had to decide which cape to wear, the cherry red or the strawberry red or tomato red. "What do you think?" she asked. My sister didn't have a chance to reply. "What am I thinking?" the Countess smirked. "You're just a simple maid. Only I can make the right choice." Again I heard Thea grumbling. This time it was even louder. My sister hates to be pushed around. Well, I thought, I hope she doesn't get so angry she blows her cover. Luckily, the Countess seemed to have other things in mind. "Put these 50,000 red roses in a vase for me," she instructed. "They're from the fiancé, Count Schwartz von der Nobs." "Ah, snot," she said softly. So sweet, yet so boring. Her voice drifted off. Then I heard the sound of footsteps. Minutes later, my sister appeared. "The rodent is a total nightmare," she fumed. "She wants me to help her with everything. I wonder if she even knows how to brush her own teeth. But there's something even stranger about her," Thea continued, lowering her voice. "She never removes that cape of hers. I wonder what she is hiding underneath. She probably is not a mouse. I think she's really a monster." I glanced at Snowbella's closet door. She was very pretty, though. I said with a shy smile. My nephew joined in. "I think she's one of the prettiest mice I've ever seen." Thea snorted. "She's pretty all right. Pretty evil," she snarled. Just then Benjamin grabbed my paw. He pointed towards the room. It had a red door with a slightly ajar on it. It had to be the Count's room. The red door. "Let's check it out," whispered Thea, pulling a camera from her apron pocket. First she took a shot on the wall and the royal portrait hanging on the wall. Then she took a step closer to the Count von Radolf's door. It was covered in dark red velvet. "Wait a minute, shouldn't you be ironing Snowbella's gown?" I asked my sister. Thea sniggered. "I'd rather iron her mouth shut," she replied. "Anyways, we need to find Trap. After we do, Miss Snobbytail will be ironing her own gown. Of course, you'll have to figure out how to iron first." What a ninny. I pushed the door open a little wider. The Count's room was a vision in red. The deep red carpet was the same color as the ceiling. Shiny red wallpaper covered the walls. Heavy red drapes hung over the windows. We approached the four-poster bed. I drew back the curtains. That was odd. There was no mattress. I noticed a strange hook screwed into the wall above where the mattress should have been. I wondered what that was for. Then I spotted a glass containing a pair of dentures. Count von Radolf's teeth. Oh, the same beside the table sat a crystal glass filled with red liquid. Could it be blood? What is it with these royal rats, I thought. Do these people enjoy seeing a mouse cry? I was going faint, I realized. "Look over there." Everything turned black. When I came to, Thea and Benjamin were standing over me. "Really, Geronimo? Do you have to keep on doing that?" "You're such a wimp," my sister scolded. Benjamin was staring at his new Mega Mouse watch. "It's dawn," he whispered. "The hunchback should be coming back soon." Just as he finished talking, the hunchback appeared in front of us. "Everything ready for the guest arrival?" Thea answered for everyone. "Everything is just perfect," she squeaked. The hunchback yawned. Very well. I can finally go to sleep then. Tomorrow, we have to get up very early at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she moaned, slinking off to his bed. Something was differently wrong with these rodents. Why did they sleep all the way instead of all night? It didn't make sense. But now we were all feeling down in the dumps. How would we ever find Trap again? The castle was so large it could take us weeks to search one floor. Benjamin was the first to notice the red stain. Look over there, he stammered, pointing to a large red puddle on the floor. It seemed to be oozing out from under the closet door. We approached on tiptoe. Shh, no squeaking, whispered Theo. This could be ugly. All of a sudden, the door flew open. Sister was right, it was ugly. There in the middle of the room stood Trap. He was covered in blood from head to toe. The red stain was spinning in wider and wilder circles round him. Trap, I shrieked. He moved a paw, squirting red liquid all over the place. Oh, hey there, Mousekins, he called. Glad you all decided to hang out. Tonight's menu's gonna be die for. He turned around, whistling, and took a steaming pot out of the oven. I looked around. We were in the castle's kitchen. Piranha burgers. Trap, is everything alright? Asked Thea. Her eyes were as big as fresh balls of mozzarella. My cousin ran a paw through his fur. No, everything is not alright. Everything's wrong. I am running terribly late, he groaned. I still have to peel caterpillars, grill the scorpions, and fry the fleas. Thank goodness you guys are here. I stared at the cousin's fur. But what happened to you? I cried. Trap giggled. Oh, it's nothing. Don't go fainting on me, Jeremiah said, teased. A bucket of tomato juice just fell on top of me. Luckily, I've got another one in the refrigerator. So let's see. Cousin, can you cook the shark fillets and fry the piranha burgers? Be careful with the piranhas. The seeds were fresh. In fact, they may be alive. I grabbed Trap's paw. Listen, I said. We've got to get you out of here. You have no idea what we discovered. These brown rattles are really weird. I told him about how they slept during the day and stayed awake all night. I told them about how they slept in beds with no mattresses. And I told them about the huge black bat we had seen flying around the castle at night. It's all true, Trap said. It's all true, Trap, my sister added. We need to scream now, or it's too late. Trap just went on cooking without twitching. So the rodents are a little out of the ordinary, he said. It doesn't bother me. Besides, I'm not leaving until I found out about my royal background. I didn't travel all the way for nothing, he insisted. He pulled a cookbook off the shelf and began flipping through it. Now what can I make for dessert? How about a nice dragonfly pie? That would be nice, I think. I saw a crate of dragonflies down in the cellar. The secret of a normal mouse. Before we could stop him, Trap raced down the stairs leading to the basement. A little window and wooden door slammed shut behind him. That's it, I squeaked. I've had enough of this. We're leaving. I grabbed Benjamin's paw and headed for the door. Once you're right, big brother. Let's go, my sister agreed. I've got enough pictures for my story anyways. Suddenly, I deafening scream made Alpha curl. I threw open the cellar door. Trap! What happened? I squeaked. My cousin came running up the stairs. He was covered in an inky black suit. I found it! I found it! He shouted, bouncing up the down like a basketball in New Mouse City Cross Island tournament. He danced a jig right down the steps and he pointed to a wooden trunk. The initials on it read TVT. Look, I found this trunk right next to the big basket of coal, he whooped. TVT, it has to be Trap Von Trappin'. Hoping up and down with excitement, he opened the trunk and peered inside. He took a small picture of a chubby mouse with curly whiskers. I had to admit, he did kind of look like my cousin. Trap dug deeper inside the trunk. Wow, look at this, he cried, pulling out a faded old letter. He cleared his throat and began reading solemnly. In year 1605, during the age of the rat, under the rule of the most excellent, most noble mouse, most magnificent Grand Duchess Gisela Linda, the title of noble mouse is hereby given to Trap Von Trappin. Trap stopped reading. He let out a loud sigh. Just a noble mouse. He whined. I was hoping for something a little more like regal, like a duke or a baron or something. I chuckled. Trap was so into this royalty stuff, I'm surprised he didn't start wearing a crown on his head. My cousin continued reading. The title of a noble mouse is hereby given to Trap Von Trappin, famous throughout the land for his services. All of a sudden, Trap turned as pale as a mouse, who just swallowed a whole tray of rat poison. He began to sweat. He rolled up the letter and tucked it in his pocket. Wait a minute, you haven't finished reading, Theo pointed out. My cousin just shook his head. Never mind, I'll read it to you later, he coughed. Of course my sister didn't put it down. She leaped to her feet. What does it say, Trap? He squeaked. Put your paws down, let me see. She reached for the letter, but my cousin pushed her away. She and the two were wrestling on the cellar floor. I shook my head. Why did they always have to act like a couple of cranky mousets? It was embarrassing. Once I had to pull them apart at my poor Uncle Chester's funeral. My sister insisted that Uncle Chester had liked her best. Naturally, Trap disagreed and had a fight broke out. This time I decided I wasn't getting involved. Eventually, Thea got her paws on the letter. "Your forefathers and my forefathers too," she cried. She read aloud the rest of the letter. The title of Noble Mouse is hereby given to Trappin on Trappin, famous throughout the land for his service as a toilet bowl cleaner. At this point, Trap was sobbing away. "A toilet bowl cleaner," he choked. "How humiliating. Now I can't tell anyone about my royal background. What a shame. What a dreadful shame." Here comes the carriages. Just then, the kitchen door flew open. The hunchback came slipping in. "The first guest is on his way here," he announced. He leaned out of the window to watch one of the carriages approach. "How rude! Noon arrives early to the ball!" Shrieked running to the door. I caught my cousin's eyes. "Well, what do we do now?" I asked. Trip wiped away his tears. "I must pull myself together and serve dinner," he said, trying to keep a stiff upper snout. "Please stay here and help me. Then we can all leave when the ball is over." We agreed to stay as long as Trap promised to come home with us after the ball. Minutes later, we heard a shrieking female voice. "My dress! Where's the foolish maid?" It was Countess Snowbella. Thea left, looking rather grim. Benjamin and I hurried off to the ballroom. The front door opened and the hunchback called out at the top of his lungs, "The Marquise of Sweet Blood and the Baroness of Low Fight." Meanwhile, more carriages pulled in front of the castle. The hunchback continued announcing each guest. His voice grew hoarse from the yelling. "The Grand Duke of Silverwing, Prince Wobbly Guide, Baron Hot Breath, and Marquise Plasma, Count Sconvenose." The guests were all dressed in long, silky capes. They glided quietly in the big hall. Count Von Radoff welcomed them in with a sad smile. Rancid rat hairs, he needed some cheering up. Maybe my cousin's insects dinner would do the trick. My hero. Suddenly, all the guests turned around. Their eyes were glued at a huge winding staircase. At the top stood Countess Snowballa. She was dressed in a flaming red ball gown. I heard someone sigh behind me. It was Trap. He was clutching a big pot of piranha soup between his paws. His eyes were glued to the young Countess. Snowballa took one small step on the marble staircase. She smiled flirtatiously, then blew a kiss to all her admirers. What style, what charm. Trap whispered, spellbound. Snowballa took another step. Then she slipped. She tried to keep her balance, but it was no use. Thump, thump. The young Countess began tumbling down the stairs, faster than a gumball in a candy machine. For an instant, I caught my sister with a satisfied grin on her snout. Did she do something to Snowballa's dress to make her trip? There's no time to ask. The next thing I knew, Trap had dropped his pot and soup. Piranhas flew everywhere. "Ah!" Trap shrieked as the top of the soup rained down on me. My cousin sprinted forward like an Olympic track race. At the whistle, "I'll save you," he shouted as he leapt up the staircase. Scones burned the nose. Snowballa's fiancé and others tried to follow him. My cousin was way ahead of them. He stretched out his paws, then he caught Snowballa. The young Countess looked at him, an enduring smile. "My hero," she said with a sigh. Trap shrugged. "Oh, it's really nothing," he said shyly. I could hardly believe my eyes. My cousin was anything but shy. Then I noticed that my poor Sconots had slunk away in a corner. He sat watching Trap and Snowballa, looking very, very sad. The guests couldn't stop whispering like Trap. My cousin ran back to the kitchen to finish cooking. "So much for royalty," he chuckled as he chopped up a blow of Swiss cheese. "Those stuck-up snouts couldn't keep up with me if they tried." Moments later, we heard the young Countess calling for Trap. "The first dance belongs to the hero who came to my rescue tonight. Where are you, Mystery Mouse?" In an instant, my cousin leaped to Snowballa's side again. "Countess, I'd be honored," he said, taking her paw. The two of them waltzed around the ballroom while an orchestra played a romantic song. My cousin held Snowballa tightly. She giggled like a young schoolmouse around the room. The guests began gossiping. "Who is he? Who could it be?" "It's a football star," said a second rat. "No, he's a secret agent," said a third. Finally, one rodent got it right. "Here's the cook!" she squeaked. Thea was fuming. "That witch! You mayors are all such simpletons," she huffed. Benjamin gazed with respect at the couple swirling across the dance room. "Uncle Trap is such a good dancer," he said with a sigh. Pizza galore. The clock was chiming. I counted 12 times. It was already midnight again. I sniffed the air. What was that awful smell? The smoke. I had waved frantically to my cousin. He got the message, kissed Snowballa's paw, and was gone. "Where'd he go? He just disappeared. The rodent is so mysterious," gossiped the guests. In the kitchen, my cousin was busy yanking open the oven. Clouds of black smoke filled the room. "Well, this is just great," Trap shrieked. For some reason, they seemed to be glaring at me. "I should have known I couldn't trust you, Geronimo," he squeaked. "The bloodsucker pie is burnt that because you didn't get me in time. The piranha soup is ruined because you let me drop it on the floor. Even my special dessert is a disaster, thanks to you, Geronimo." He pointed to a small empty cage. "You even let the dragonflies get away." I was furious. I was not about to take the blame for this one. I had to stand up for myself. "What are you talking about?" I shouted. "What has your menu got to do with me?" But Trap wasn't listening. "Geronimo didn't mess up the whole meal though, right? It can't be that bad," Thea added. I groaned. Why do I always get blamed for everything? My cousin hopped around the kitchen like a wild rat. "Not so bad," he squeaked. "Would you tell me the 347 guests they can chew their nails for dinner? I mean, what can I make at this hour? All I have left is some tomato sauce, some flour, olive oil." Suddenly, Trap's eyes lit up. "I've got it," he cried. "I'll make a pizza." Benjamin tugged at Trap's paw. "But what about the cheese, Uncle?" he asked. My cousin grinned. He had a plan. A plan to make a very unusual pizza. When the oven fired up, he began cramming in the pizza after pizza at a breakneck speed. Trap hummed a happy tune as he threw the round of pizza dough in the air. I must admit, he was pretty good. I decided to check in on the situation in the ballroom. The guests had the hungry look of a mice who had been dancing for 2 hours. They drummed the table impatiently with their paws. Their eyes were focused on the door that had led to the kitchen. Just then, Trap gave me the signal. I bowed to Count Blad. "Dinner is served," I announced. At the moment the door flew open, Benjamin rolled in a cart loaded with pizzas. The guests licked their lips. The pizza had very special toppings. There were pureed ants, spicy earthworms, broiled bumblebees, and more. "Pizzas," the guest murmured. "Never tasted one before, but these are delicious." The meal was a huge success. Whose idea was it? Who's made these wonderful things? The guest asked. Everyone wanted to know. The joke that works every time. I was passing out slices of pizza when suddenly I heard a strange noise coming from the kitchen. No, I'm not sure if you could call it a noise actually. It was sort of a mixture of music and noise. I noticed that many of the guests were listening too. I headed for the kitchen table. Investigated. I threw open the door. The strange sound was coming from my cousin. Yes, Trap was standing over there sinking, drumming on the bots with a big spoon. He turned the tap water on with his tail as he hopped about the beats. At the same time, Benjamin was banging the big garbage can with a broomstick and a large fork. Just then the guests began to crowd around the kitchen. "This is where the real party is," Trap shouted. One rat grabbed a spoon and began banging on a pot. Another rat began to dance. Soon all of the guests were laughing and dancing in the kitchen. It was quite a sight. They grabbed the camera and began snapping away. The only one who did not seem to be having fun was Count Van Radoff. He stood off to the side, watching the others and a gloomy look in his eyes. Trap stared at the sad Count. "Just watch this. I'll bet I can lift his spirits. No one can resist my jokes," he boasted. "Especially the joke that works every time." He strode over to Count Van Radoff. "Have you heard the latest bat joke?" he said. Suddenly the room became deadly quiet. All the guests glared at Trap. He whispered into the Count's ear. It was so quiet you could hear a whisper drop. I held my breath. The Count did not move a muscle for a second. Then his fur began to quiver. A strange gurgle noise rose from his throat. He began to roll on the floor, holding his stomach in his paws. He was having a fit. I let out a sigh of relief. We would live. The guests stared. Ha ha, amazed. They too began to giggle. Trap popped up his fur. "I told you," he smirked. "It works every time." Von der Nose scores again. At that moment, the young countess whirled her way through the crowd. She was like a small tornado in a ball gown. "At last I have found you!" "What are you doing here in the kitchen?" she asked Trap. My cousin dropped his spoon and ran to her. "My dear countess," he squeaked, kissing her paw. "You are the most magnificent mouse I've ever met. I love you from the minute I saw you. But I'm not rich. I'm just a cook." Guatemala did not seem to care. She was staring at Trap as if he was the best thing, sliced cheese. "Who needs money, my dear Trap?" she said. "Love is all we need to survive." By my side, I heard Thea snorting. "He's going to need more than love to live with that evil rodent," she grumbled. I couldn't take my eyes off my cousin. I'd never seen him in so in love. He seemed so sincere, so sweet, nothing like the obnoxious pest I knew. Could he really be a changed mouse? With shining eyes, Trap bent to give Snowballa a hug. And that's when the truth came out. In her excitement, the Countess opened her cape wide. 2 gigantic dark wings unfolded in front of her eyes. The Countess wasn't a mouse. She was a bat. "Ah!" Trap cried. My cousin took one look at those wings and fainted. For once it's not me, I thought. Then I ran to help him. Trap came to with a start. The Countess stood over him. "Now I understand," my cousin mumbled. You're a family of bats. That's why you eat bugs. Snowbella waved her paws. So what's wrong with perfumed mosquitoes now and then? Have you ever tried grilled grasshopper? Don't knock it until you've tried it, she said. My cousin shook his head. This is never going to work, he groaned. We are too different, you and I. I like to travel around, going from adventure to adventure, while you prefer to stay at home in your comfy castle. Plus, for all I know, you probably sleep upside down, and don't hang out with blood drinkers. It looks like you drink blood by the gallon. And they pointed to a pitch filled with red liquid. Now the Countess was angry. She wrapped her cape around herself and snared at Trap. That's tomato juice, you ninny, she hissed. And for your information, sleeping upside down improves your circulation with that. Countess Snowbella stalked off down to the kitchen door, but before she could leave, Snot von der Nose grabbed her by the paw. Then he kissed the bottom of her cape. My dear Snowbella, he crooned, forget that nasty rodent. I'll always love you just the way you are. The Countess never gave Trap a second glance. She spread her wings and took off with Snot. Beside me and I heard my sister snickering. Ah, two bats in love, she sneered. Isn't it romantic? One last mystery. At last, we knew the real story behind the Count von Radoff and his niece. Bats do not walk, bats use their wings to fly. This is why the Countess and the young Countess always appear to disappear so quickly. Bats do not sleep on mattresses, they sleep upside down. The Countess must use the hook in his room to just do that. Bats do not eat cheese, they eat all kinds of bugs. That would explain the rodents' strange eating habits. But there was still one more mystery left to solve. What was the strange noise coming from the highest tower of the castle? Being a newspaper mouse, I just had to find out the real story. Luckily, I didn't have to wait long to find the real scoop. The strange noise started up again. I raced over to the tower. There, under the moonlight, stood the hunchback. He was putting on a pair of very old-fashioned flying goggles. Then he climbed up to a huge black plane with wings shaped like a bat. Count von Radoff was waiting on board. Greeting the hunchback, turned around and waved a paw at me. How do you like our plane? We built it because Count von Radoff suffers from arthritis and cannot fly long distances anymore. He shouted in the wind. Then the plane took off. No matter the rodents down in the village had so much garlic, the Count's plane looked just like an enormous vampire bat. The saddest story ever told. I went downstairs to the dining room, leftover pizzas littered on the table. Red tomato juice dripped down the chairs. An enormous vase of black roses had crashed into 1,000,000 pieces on the floor. What a rat's nest. We all pitched in and cleaned up. But by the time we had finished, it was almost dawn. The guests had all left, except for one. We found him hanging upside down in the closet fast asleep. This is going to be a first rat story, Thea squeaked, taking a picture of the snoring guest. The pictures of the boar are going phenomenal. I checked my watch. There's a train leaving at 7. Are we all ready to go? Benjamin nodded his head. I guess so, Uncle. He settled beside, but I was beginning to like the castle. Those cobwebs are kind of neat, I smiled. Only my sensitive little nephew could fall in love with cobwebs. We headed down the long hall. As we passed the Count's red door, we heard a strange noise. It was someone laughing. The door flew open, and there was a Count von Radoff. He sprawled on a chair in a fit of giggles. I turned to Trap, calling cheese bits. He's still laughing at your joke. I croaked, can you make him stop? He's laughing so hard he's gonna bust a wing. Trap snatched his head with a paw. Yes, I recognize the symptoms. That joke can work every time, can have effect on certain rodents. Stand back, I will handle this. He walked over to the Count and mumbled something in his ear. My cousin must have been telling the Count his whole life story. Finally, he stopped. All at once, Count von Radoff stopped laughing and began to cry. No, I'm talking little tiny boohoo tears. He looked like a waterfall wearing a cape. If he cried any harder, we'd have to swim home. What did you do to him? Thea shrieked. Don't worry, I just told him the saddest story ever. It never fails. He'll cry for half an hour and then it'll be over. We waved goodbye to the Count. Then we headed for the main entrance and out the door. The hunchback stood on the steps, waving a big handkerchief. Goodbye, come back soon. It has been a pleasure having you here. My mouth dropped open. The hunchback's words were not blended together. He could speak perfectly clear. He must have been pulling our paws the whole time. I quickly turned down to say farewell, but he had already disappeared into the Transylvanian fog. Next stop, Newmouse City. Our trip back to Newmouse City seemed even longer than the trip out. Thea was in a great mood. She pulled out her laptop, began typing up the article about the Transylvanian castles. For once, Trap was not chatting away. He just stared out the window with a sad smile. I had a feeling he was still thinking about Snowbella. Benjamin had fallen asleep in the lap. Wrapped in my scarf, I watched the fog fall by as the train chugged. I couldn't wait to get back home. No more travelling for this mouse, I promised myself. Not for years to come. The fairy tree. When I got home, I fell into my comfy bed. At midnight, I woke up with a jolt. Someone was ringing my bell. I pulled out the bathroom and shuffled to the door. Who is it? I'm an evil spirit, called out a shaky voice. I gulped. Could it be really a ghost? Could one have followed me the way home? I looked through the peephole. No, it was just not a ghost outside my door. It was only a trap. Did I scare you? He sniggered. I banged open the door. What do you want? I squeaked, annoyed. My cousin brushed me. Have you heard the news? He said. The agency made a mistake. I'm not a descendant of the Von Trappens, but I may be related to the Maximilia of Mashara. Look, I put the fairy tree. It's a family tree, not a fairy tree, I sighed. Trapp wasn't listening. It turns out my ancestor was a famous explorer. He travelled to the far corners of Mashara Desert, he babbled on. I'm going there myself, to Mashara. I mean, you're gonna come too with me, right? By the way, since my forefathers are yours too, I told the agency to bill you for the Watcher-Militant, you know, the fairy tree. Before he could say another word, I leaped across the room and threw him out the door, screaming, Get lost! Back at my desk. Next morning, I was back at my desk, phone calls, faxes, email. It felt as if it had been a whole month, not for just a few days. My sister flew into my office. This tornado, take a look at this, she shrieked. You can see the castle at the staircase, the courtyard, even the cobwebs. But I do not have one picture of any of the guests, she squeaked. I hoped, how does those rotten bats do it? I picked onto my magnifying glass, then I examined each picture. You're right, I agreed. The castle looks deserted. Thea snapped her paws. I cannot believe this. Now I have to get back the money I got from the Daily Rat for my story, she grumbled. I tried not to laugh out loud. Serves her right for trying to work for the slimy Daily Rat, I thought. Maybe the legend about the ghost living in the castle really is true, I said. My sister rolled her eyes. Oh, Geronimo, she smirked. You're so gullible. Then she placed her elbows on my desk. By the way, have I told you about Mashara? She whispered. Mashara, Mashara, Mashara. I sat up straight. Uh-oh. That was the second time I heard the word Mashara. Something told me my sister had been talking to Trapp. What about Mashara? I asked cautiously, just as I thought. My sister had been talking to my cousin. She told me about the great idea he had. She could do a special report on the secrets of the Mashara Desert. She could do an interview with the chief of Mouse-Rag, the mysterious blue rats who lived there. I can see the headline already. Mashara, 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 Thea squeaked. Oh, and of course you'd have to come with me, she added. I put my head in my paws. This is not happening, I groaned. First you dragged me off to Transantania, the coldest place on the island, with fog thicker than cream cheese, and now I stopped to catch my breath. You want me to go to Mashara? Do you know that it's the hottest place on the island? The temperatures reach 120 degrees in the shade. You can fry an egg on top of the rodent's head. My sister twirled her whiskers. Jerry, dear. You're such a whiner, she said. Now if you come with me, I'll tell you a story. Otherwise, I'll offer it to the Daily Rat. You have 5 minutes to make up your mind, she added, drifting out of the office. After she left, I stared at my watch. It only took me 2 minutes to make up my mind. My sister can be a real pain, but she can smell a scoop a mile away. I could already see the headlines in the Rodents Gazette.